Good afternoon, good evening. The 212th Men Cricket Podcast. Been a while. Very difficult to balance all of the happenings. You've turned 30.
Yes, I have.
I've turned 30.
Yeah.
So we're no longer a young podcast.
No, middle-aged podcast.
Middle-aged podcast. How have you been?
Yeah, good. I suppose we've got your travels. You've been having a very interesting life. We'll cover that on the pod.
Yeah.
I've been, I think the weather's getting better, slowly and surely, as it pisses it down on that deluxe window. But
it's been a real tough slog for sport in England, hasn't it? Our golf course is 2 weeks behind. It was supposed to be opening day 2 weeks ago now. We think that's going to be delayed. Right. I've seen that, is it Gloucestershire, that their field is underwater field. Their cricket pitch is underwater. Worcester, it might be Worcester, is it? Yeah. It just generally looks like a pond.
Yeah.
So they've got problems there. Rain's pretty relentless, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. But it'll get there.
Do you buy into this kind of political weather controlling system theories that Matt Letitia is going on about? No, but it's true. In Dubai, they genuinely move the rain away, so it's not completely stupid.
No, weather seeding, I think it's called.
Yeah.
That's where you put.
That's to bring the rain in, isn't it?
Yeah.
So how do you push it away?
You put some kind of mineral in the air, don't you? And it brings the rain out.
Like a diffuser in your house.
Yeah, why not?
I asked the wrong guy, right?
So I don't think that the British government are weather seeding for all this rain. I don't think that's good for anyone.
That could be a campaign winner.
Yeah,
I'd actually vote for that.
What?
If you could bank me a summer by controlling the weather, I think I'd vote for that party.
I think the way that it works is if Paul McCartney apparently has done it at times, is if he's got a gig at 8 o'clock, he'll do weather seeding at 7 in the morning.
So how can Paul McCartney do it, but we can't do it for professional sport?
Paul McCartney's, megastar.
Is that actually true?
Yeah. The examples I've heard before in Dubai, China,
and Paul McCartney. Yeah. What's this sport? Cricket. Yeah. Went to India.
How was it?
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Everyone I speak to says to me, your pictures look absolutely shit. Because someone's when you walk around Bolton, people's views of a holiday aren't necessarily walking down back streets of tired looking shacky type buildings with cows in the road.
Are you saying that the Bolton population isn't as cultured as you?
Not at all. I just think India's one of those holidays you probably do if in most cases in life in your middle ages pushing on to 50, 60. I don't think many 30-year-olds stick a knife there and say, do you know what? Iron Appa, Ibiza, I'm going to go to India and do all these and see all the Taj Mahal. I was certainly one of the younger demographics in a lot of what we had. We had a tour guide. It was fantastic.
And what did you do? Where did you go?
So we started off in Delhi. We toured the streets there. We had a guy called Govind, really top guy, massive cricket fan, as you can imagine. Showed us all around Delhi. You just kind of get stuck into the to the street food and things that are there. The only way I can describe it, and the way to sort of understand the pure size of India.
Yeah.
If you look down a street, we're in Monson now, just outside of Manchester in Salford, and you see 10 people stood there. In India, there's 80 people stood there, and no one seems to have much sort of purpose to the day. I was asking Govind, I was saying, this guy here is there. I mean, in England now, people in offices or in factories or in, any sort of work setting. What are they doing now? So you're saying, well, work for him for a day might be to go and speak to that guy that's 500 yards away, pass him a piece of money or some kind of raw material, which you'll exchange for goods and services. And that'll be them done for the day. Job done. Right. That supplements them as an economy.
You're saying the Bolton populace isn't cultured,
and
then the Indian populace lazy. Is that what?
No, not lazy. I just think it's just the development of the country. I imagine that Britain would have parts of Britain would have been like this years and years ago. Right. It's a growing economy, and by the way, it's catching complete fire. Yeah. That it's there's a real sense, particularly when you walk around Delhi. New Delhi's very much got a British colonial feel. Lots of buildings reminiscent to what you'll see when you go on your weekend trips to London. Yeah. But a real youthful sort of feel to the city, vibrant, aspirational. I mean, Modi's pretty big over there. There's sort of propaganda type cardboard cutouts of him on the moon, which you can have your picture saying I'm on the moon with Modi, which is a hashtag.
And then Delhi to Jaipur.
Jaipur's the pink city, home of the Rajasthan Royals.
This is the one that I like the look of Jaipur.
Yeah, I mean, again, it's probably a tough sell because you go there and it appears on the eye. You see it's hard to look past the poverty and the pandemonium of the place, because there's people everywhere. You're going to get beggars, you're going to get whatever, and I was always ready and prepared for this. I was ready to dive into India. But yeah, you've got the pink palaces of Jaipur. Before Jaipur, we went to the Taj Mahal and a place called Agra, which is solely exists for the Taj Mahal. It's not a place you probably want to venture out and find your what sort of things you like to go and frequent. Your sort of like coffee bars and stuff like. You're gonna have a bit of a challenge there. So I'd stay in the hotel in Agra.
On the 7 modern wonders of the world.
It's a massive wonder of the world. The only problem is, Govind said, I've been here 250 times, and 249 times the weather's been immaculate. Today it's pissing down.
Right.
So my pictures were slightly diluted, and I was severely hungover in those pictures as well, because we've been up in the hotel bar drinking the beer me and you were drinking at the Oval for the India-Australia World Test Championship final game. Beera, yeah. I was drinking like a pale ale, kind of like blue. I messaged you, didn't it? It was very reminiscent to like a Blue Moon. Yeah, we did, but I had 6 of them, and it was straight to we had some wine. The only wine you can buy in India is Jacob's Creek, funnily enough, which you could probably get in that Tesco Express near your house for about £4 or something like that. 40 quid equivalent in rupees. The rest is pretty affordable, and you can get a really cheap meal, but they really hike up the prices on the wine. I think Modi's taxing the hell out of that.
I suppose it's just a bit of demand and supply.
Jaipur, back to Delhi, connecting flight to Dharamshala in the Himalayas. Absolutely unbelievable place. I, as a young lad watching or being around the country of India, when you see it on TV, your instant thoughts are hot, humid, sticky. We did the Triad Trail, is it? I've probably mispronounced that, but I've slept since. A walk up the hill. So we'll get to the cricket, obviously, in a sec. But
so this is up the foothills of the Himalayas.
Yeah. When the test match ended prematurely, we had 2-3 days. So, like most people, the main thing to do in the Himalayas is walk. We walked up the huge mountain. It starts off in like I've got the altitude somewhere on my social media, but I'm not trying to dumb down the experience. But you start off in like a warmth kind of like uphill, high incline, like marathon training kind of setting. Then it gets a little bit mistier. Before you know it, snow descends and mist everywhere. Met a few familiar faces on the trip. Walked past Nasser Hussain, walked past Avers, Michael Averton, very, very polite chap. And then had a good 15 minutes with Zach Crawley up the hill. Yeah. Talking about our various test centuries between us. Do you know how many that is?
5.
Yeah.
How many have you got?
0. But I'm working on that kind of thing. Very, you know what? I'm not one of these people that sort of goes, excuse me, mate, can I picture? I don't bother people. I find it a little bit uncool thing to do. But Zach Crawley was really, you know what? He was such a nice lad, and he was making genuine conversation. I just thought I'd have a picture for cricket purposes, and he absolutely towers over me, and I'm 6 foot. So I think I asked him. I think he's 6'5", 6'6", something like that. So that's my bite-sized version of India. It was a 2-week trip.
Would you go back? Would you recommend?
I'd love to go back. I'd like to see Mumbai next time. How about you? Is it on your list to sort of visit at some point?
Yeah, I think it should be on everyone's list, really. It's,
You're not the kind of 2-week all-inclusive in Ainappa, you like to sort of venture towards the side of wonder, don't you, on these trips, and see where there's something to look at and all that.
You want to see the world while you're here, don't you? So,
we've both been to Ainappa, so that one's boxed off, haven't we?
Yes. We didn't quite do the 2 weeks, but, there's always another time. So that's the tourist board. You've done your work there for the Indian Tourist.
I have,
board.
Yeah,
what
very.
Do you think of the cricket?
The cricket, I'm when I go on these trips, I know I'm very fortunate to go on them. I don't, a lot of the tour groups on there, Barmy Army Travel, Cricket International Tours. It's like I said, it's old money.
Men,
It's retired people. Grandkids have grown up, disposable income. Let's do India. We've never done it before, that kind of thing. So, and obviously time as well. India's not, Gran Canaria. It's a couple of connecting flights, and it's different world. And for me to have the opportunity to go there first and foremost was amazing. So when I was watching the cricket, we'd already lost the series. I was on edge of seat kind of, if England don't win, this is disgraced and ruined my trip. I tried to drink in the experience. And one of the unique things about watching cricket in India, which I've been to the West Indies and various other countries, you can't drink in the ground. I think from what I gather from Govind and speaking to people out there, the events of the World Cup final in the late 90s, if you recall, where Sri Lanka triumphed, Indians were rioting in the stands. And I think kind of they drew a line under it then and said, it's probably not for us. A bit like a mate you've got who's a bit of a dick on a night out. You just think, listen, mate, pints aren't for you.
English football.
Yeah, English football. So kind of that fanatical nature irons that kind of out. So what that allows you to do is just kind of probably just absorb the cricket. I mean, there's times in which me and you've been to Old Trafford, and I think I've left sometimes not even know what score it is, because it's just a relentless kind of day out.
Yeah, your focus is on what you've gone there. You're in the foothills of the Himalayas, one of the best looking cricket grounds in the world.
Yeah, and it is superb. I mean, the temperatures weren't too dissimilar at times to what you get in an English summer.
Yeah.
We got the day 2 and 3, we got a bit of a sun trap and caught a bit of rays there. But the cricket, where to start? I think England started off quite brightly, didn't they?
Yeah.
And then it quickly derailed. It was a below par score, and then we just saw like phenomenal cricket from. And that's what I mean. How was the cricket? You can't just look at it from a lens of how did England do. You got to look at Sharma and Gill and just that front 5. I guess the batting order, they pretty much blew us away after that first innings, didn't they? We were never going to get anywhere near that by the time we got them out. Jimmy Anderson, 700 wickets. Nice moment to be there.
Yeah.
It was all. The good news is it kind of came a little bit. So Stokes came on first ball wicket.
Yeah.
And then Anderson came on another wicket. It just at least got things going a bit. Do you know what I mean? For a little while, you were almost like, having a little bit of banter with the locals. They were chanting Baz ball, that kind of thing, which you've got to wear, haven't you, when you talk the way we talk. But yeah, I don't know. It kind of was a little bit of the crash and burn sort of end to the series that we kind of probably thought might happen. Yeah. What was your assessment from back on these shows?
I suppose when you look at the series in its completion, you'd have to say a real missed opportunity to get a better scoreline than we had previously. I suppose we went there in 2021, would it have been? Lost 4-1. Come away in 2024, lost 4-1. There was no Kohli, there was no Rahul, there was no Jadeja for times, there was no Ashwin for times. There was a test without Bumrah. It did feel like, if we want this side to grow and be a better side than the root iteration of England, there has to be learnings from the missed opportunities that were definitely dropped there.
Yeah.
I find it difficult because we probably should have won one more test match if we were a better side, but is it just you can't win in India? Nobody wins in India.
I hark back to that day 2 of the second test when I thought then, I think, was it the Duckett test?
Yeah.
Or it was, we India had a modest first total, and I think we were about 100 behind and we were 2 down. Duckett was looking like a Rolls Royce. He was seeing it like a beach ball. For me then, that was the time, and you call this as well, and we've watched enough cricket to both work this out. It's no genius kind of like discovery, is it? That was the opportunity to really put our foot on the throats of the Indians, metaphorically.
Yeah.
At that point, a couple of people, like you say, missing 2-0. There's a bit of insurance there.
Yeah.
The minute it went to 1-1, you almost feel like you're like, it's like a rock. You're holding a rock and you're going towards the edge of the cliff. You can see it pushing towards.
And I think in some ways it's a great disappointment in terms of it might seem like with big Baz ball up just to pull the rug away from them and bring them back down. But if Stokes had if this Stokes side had taken a few more opportunities in the Ashes, when Lyon went off, taking a few more opportunities in India.
Ashwin went away for personal reasons. Yeah. It was so reminiscent. People were just literally drawing parallels, weren't they?
You would be thinking that that'd be one of the greatest years of an English captain ever. To win in Pakistan, to win the Ashes, and then to pull out a good performance in India, if not kind of challenge them in India, would have been a really kind of positive step forward. But I do feel like we're coming back to the mean. I feel like there is kind of the collapses are there, just like on the route.
The reason we needed to win that second test match is because we were only going to get so much out of Hartley and Bashir.
Yeah.
How do I explain this? They did so well that first test match, and they did well all series, let's be honest, but we couldn't have them in the situation where we needed them to be 100% on the money.
Yeah.
You know, if we go 2-0 up, we can afford them to be 60 and 50 and 40% a little bit and hope the other guys did. But we got ourselves to a situation where it was almost like we need you to fight back for us. And they're not ready for that.
No.
You know,
and if you think, what is that first Test match win? Is that 1 in 5,000 win?
I think it's one of my favourite ever England away wins.
If you think that Hartley on debut gets a 7 for and Pope gets 200 against India, he's never looked like getting a century against those spinners. That is a really, real rare occurrence, and we had much better opportunities. We were much better placed to win games later on in the series.
Got a bit sloppy as well towards the end, didn't we? A few like drop catches, which we've I think about the wicket keeper. Jarrell, he went on to make a big score on the Tests, and we dropped him, haven't we?
There was when we could have had them 44-4. When Wood was bowling, that electric spell. I can't remember what Test that was in. I think it felt like I came away from the Test series disappointed not because of the score and the outcome, because I think most sides would go to India and get the same result. It's actually more around seeing the same old bad habits creep in, and maybe a bit of a changing of the guard is needed now. And
it kind of we'll come on to what's next for Bazball in a minute, but you kind of, and I think this is absolutely the case. I do think you've got to build into these tours if you're going to win in Australia and India. I don't think you go there a fluke and just somehow manage to beat India on their own patch. I think everything's got to be right. You've got to be prepared. You've got to have the right balance in the team. You've got to have the right age and maturity of the team. Like when England went to Australia and won the Ashes, that team was prime ready to win, weren't they? All the players were in peak.
You want 28-year-olds.
Been
around for a few years.
Every box was ticked. You're ready. And we built for that for years. They've gone to Bavaria and, wrestled bears and all that kind of stuff. Now, this one felt a little bit like you say. I remember you reading the score and you went, that's a 5-0 or a 4-0 kind of defeat team in there. And then there was glimmer of hope there, and then the cracks started to appear. I think a lot of this is I'm massively behind Stokes as captain, McCullum, the regime, really pleased with it. I think tinkerments need to be made, but I think it was that kind of just gentle nudge going, you're not quite there yet, and words only get you so far. We still got quite a bit of work to do.
Yeah, and as we look ahead towards the English summer, it's obviously a while off till England play a Test match. They're more at the back end of the summer this year. What are those kind of marginal improvements that you'd be looking for? Is it pulling some players in?
Yeah, I think the bowling needs a bit of a revamp.
Yeah.
The King Charles of the England bowling attack, Chris Woakes, is probably going to, I'd like to think, be at the forefront of that.
Where do you think Anderson is, though, in that?
Well, I think Anderson will play. It's impossible to put a kind of finger in the air to when he departs the England team, but it felt as though, going to India without Broad, it kind of was creating that kind of a message signal to think, just like a Matty Potts here or like a Josh Tong, just something a little bit fresher coming in here. We're still relying not a lot on Anderson, and he's 41 as he says, and he doesn't look. He's not going to be. He'll be the first person to say I'm still capable of that. And it's
I mean, I'm starting to wonder whether there is a little bit of naivety and ignorance from everyone involved. That Anderson over the last 2 years now has averaged about 35 with the ball. We say he still can do it. He's still doing it at 42. It's like, but is he still doing it?
Well, them unplayable balls, they don't come as off as they used to. I think 2 or 3 years ago, he still had that delivery in money. Where there's like, he's always, look at that. It's like a highlight reel. He's obviously still got it.
And if you,
because he's a skilled bowler, isn't he? So,
if you think Woakes is 34, 35, Anderson's 42. If you have both of them in the summer, are you stopping the other people coming through? There's only one spot there.
Well, I think what Woakes will immediately add, and it's not the way I want to sort of go, but he'll immediately add some balance into that batting order. That's a little bit battle scarred at the minute. Bairstow's had a poor tour, and Folks has got a bit mangled towards the end, and he mangled, tangled. You know what I mean? I think it'll just add a little bit of a, let's just take a deep breath and get back to know what we're doing. And you've got Woakes coming in at 7. It's a bit of a safety blanket, isn't it? That kind of thing. So I quite like the idea of that. I thought he bowled phenomenally against Australia.
Yeah.
So there's that, and there's some, whenever England lose and you go to these, England fans are actually brilliant, by the way. You don't go there like would get a football game where it's like sack everyone and do this kind of thing. People appreciate they're on a nice holiday and they do all these kind of things. But constructively, I think you would look at a couple of things there. Brooks obviously going to come back into the team. I think looks to me like he's had I saw a reel of him having a lovely cover drive down the middle in county cricket. So for me, what's next for Bazball? I think they're probably going to look to try and inject some trials on bowlers this summer.
What about Bairstow? Where you landing on Bairstow?
It's one of those, like, Bairstow is a bit suspect of criticism, isn't he? I would have hoped better from this series. I would expect him to perform better. I think the only thing with Johnny is that he peaked a year before we probably liked him to have peaked. He had a golden summer in that first like Bazball summer, if you like, and then the Australia tour again. His most memorable thing is the Carey run out, I think, and then a couple of that sort of the sharpness he was at before that injury. It's something tough to sort of return to, and you wonder now with England perhaps already exercising some different wicket keeping options. There's batsmen that are being highlighted, which you're going to touch on for me. You do wonder whether it's getting towards that conversation, don't you?
Yeah, for me, he either bats at 7 with gloves, or he probably needs to kind of a proper microscope on him if he's just playing as a sole batsman these days. I think that if he plays this summer against West Indies and Sri Lanka, he'll score a lot of runs. That's the kind of summer that he really thrives in.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not saying he's like a flat track bully or whatever, but against the slightly under the top 3, that's where he really thrives. So I'd imagine if he retains his place, he'll then carry on into the Ashes, because I think he'll have a good summer.
Mm-hmm.
Folks, I don't think is the one for Test cricket. I just don't think the batting's there. I think he averages 28, 29 now with the bat. It's just that isn't good enough for a top class Test team. If you think that India are bringing Pant in, they've got Jarrell who's performing really well.
Carey's doing really well, isn't he?
Carey's doing well for Australia.
There's some really important knocks.
You just don't have top Test teams with a wicketkeeper that can only average 28, 29.
I think the lure of Rue is becoming more and more appealing, isn't it? And we've got another Ollie Robinson, haven't we?
Yes, so there's Ollie Robinson at Durham, who I think is the one that everyone thinks is the most ready. James Rue's really young. I think he's only 19. He's only done 1 season for Somerset. Obviously,
very impressive
season.
Numbers, though. Yeah.
So it'll be interesting to see how he goes in the start of the summer. And then the other one to look at is another Surrey youngster, is Jamie Smith, which would be more from the mould of like your Bairstow, of a bit of a white ball
dasher.
Yeah, got really good red ball numbers for Surrey. Does keep, but isn't as natural a keeper as particularly Robinson. So it'll be interesting to see which way they go. I think that they'll probably just put Bairstow at 7 and bring Brook in.
You do, and they'll entrust him with the gloves.
Yeah, I think it is a pretty tight knit circuit, isn't it? I think it's hard to get out of that side at the moment. And then
it kind of goes against this philosophy of being too scared to, don't be afraid to fail kind of thing. It contradicts McCullum's theory if he's saying the minute you are going for a difficult period, you're out, let's chop and change it.
Yeah.
From what I gather, I'll say controversial, but I don't give a fuck really. He doesn't seem to have too much concentration on county cricket from a selection process. The Bashir selection, the Hartley selection.
Yeah. He's almost guaranteed Gus Atkinson a debut in the summer.
They're going off impulses, aren't they?
Yeah.
And the Bashir selection paid off. I think there's England didn't win, but there's something there, isn't there? I'm a massive Rehan Ahmed fan. You can see there's nothing to say. If managed correctly, and next time in Tour India, that they're a lot more accomplished spinners.
Yeah, and to be honest, that conversation probably flows us nicely into the next segment around kind of the first week of the county season, and the big highlights from a.
This is really prime topic for you, isn't it? Because you're a bit of an anorak when it comes to county cricket. You're a distant follower, aren't you? You like a browse of the BBC Sports app.
I like to look at the scorecards when it's on.
What's your kind of motive here? Are you looking at going, I really like the look of Gloucestershire this year and I'm looking to do well? Are you looking at, are you a scout essentially?
Yeah,
are you like
the next England players, aren't you?
Yeah.
So I think.
So you're looking for patterns then?
Yeah, in the batting perspective, you're looking at Josh Bohannon. You're looking at the three keepers that we've mentioned.
Yeah.
Smith, Robinson, and Rue are going. And then if anyone else is going to come to the party, they're probably next cabs off the rank. And then from a bowling perspective, who could take the places of Anderson and who could freshen it up a little bit. So the first real good news for England is Brooke scored a blistering century in about 60-odd balls. Took a real liking to the Leicestershire attack, which included Rayan Ahmed, who was quite expensive.
Yeah, you're a bit unfavourable towards Ahmed, aren't you?
Ahmed batted 6 or 7. He primarily plays that role for Leicestershire.
I did think we missed him a bit when he went home after the fourth test. I thought that the free spin option was looking quite good because although he was more expensive, Ahmed, I do think he's got a wicket-taking ball in him.
Yeah, I just don't think I think he needs to come into the white ball stuff in the international threat. I think you saw it with Adil Rashid, is that inconsistency that wrist spinners have, lack of natural accuracy, can be quite helpful in the white ball game. I think in the red ball game, people just milk you. I don't think he's the one of the three that.
Especially Jai's walls.
Yeah,
he was pretty good, wasn't he?
Yeah, he wasn't too bad. But Brooke obviously back into form, so that's a good one. Bashir didn't play for Somerset, wasn't picked. I think they picked 5 seamers, no spinner. So that goes, I suppose, against McCullum.
Why would you not pick 5 seamers when it's pissing down and it's 11 degrees?
I suppose.
Do you know what I mean?
I'd expect McCullum and Key Stokes to be a little bit pissed off. We're using the Kookaburra Bowl in I think, the first few games of the county season. I'm not sure how many games.
That'd be like a sponge, that one. It'd be like one of the minky cloths.
And spinners did actually do well. Dan Lawrence did well for Surrey against Lancashire. So there was turn in the first week.
Hartley
batted 7 for Lancashire.
Get a ball.
Lyon and Hartley played.
Well, I'll tell you what, that's good enough. That's a good enough experience on its own.
Yeah.
You bet to Nathan Lyon.
And I think it's good.
And if I was Hartley, I'd be chewing his ear off in the field.
Yeah.
Without spinning.
And I think
I know it's not like completely like for like, but you reckon he knows the two thing, don't you?
Yeah, I don't know how much wisdom Lyon did part, whether he kind of.
Oh, he strikes me as a sort of friendly guy that I think would want to help out a young bowler.
But I think a real positive there as well is that Hartley's batting 7, because if he's batting 7 for Lancashire, putting a bit more responsibility on him, you've got a potential number 8 for England. That you've not got that reliance on Wokes, and if you can get a spinner,
there were a few shots there, weren't there, in the India series?
Yeah. And then another big name to watch out for as we start to look at the bowling is Sam Cook. So we got a hat-trick in the first innings of Essex.
I like the look of Sam Cook.
Yeah,
I always have. I've always been pretty keen on to get him into the Test lineup.
Yeah,
I was reading. Does he reckon he cranked his pace up a little bit because he was hovering around the 75 mark, wasn't he, for a long time?
I don't think he's necessarily the quickest. I don't think that's what he does. I think he's more of one of your nip it, Ryan Harris style bowlers.
You were pretty quick, mate.
No, I mean more in the iteration of when he did really well for
Angus Fraser,
Australian. I'm talking high 70s, low 80s, probably your Ollie Robinson pace, to be honest.
Well, but you say that.
Vernon Philander.
That's pretty good,
Abbas, Ryan Harris, Ollie Robinson. He's probably the next cav off the rank, and I would probably give him a go ahead of Ollie Robinson in the summer. I don't think Ollie Robinson...
Oh, in your good books, Ollie Robinson, is he?
He didn't do well for Sussex in the first game. I mean, in some ways, he's got this new podcast. He's got the blonde hair. He's not particularly endearing at the moment to English fans. The
thing with Ollie Robinson, though, and Ryan Sidebottom's come out and said this, is this not the time where you really back him, because he's got an impeccable home record, which can't be denied.
He didn't bowl well in the Ashes last year.
Perhaps not, but...
He's not bowled well for about 18 months.
I know, but you'd want to try and unlock that, wouldn't you? If you were looking at, there's a massive, huge selection of bowlers in county cricket, and there's clearly something there from this bowler. Is it a man management thing? Is it Is it a personal thing? I mean, like you say, he's not afraid to come out and say he's not quite getting things right. So there's obviously someone there who's willing to listen and willing to improve. I want you to try and separate the bowler from the individual now.
No, my honest opinion would be Anderson's probably going to play.
Mm-hmm.
I think they want to get. My gut feel is they want to get Anderson past one, and then I'd give Anderson a couple of games this summer to have a chance of doing that. I think Walk should play. I think Wood should play. I think Atkinson, Potts, and Sam Cook should all get a go.
Yeah.
Am I missing anyone there? So that's 6 bowlers that I've mentioned.
Yeah, Josh Tong's struggling with his fitness, I believe.
Yeah, so I've got 6 bowlers that I would have ahead of Robinson.
Rotational, because we've got, quite a few test matches, haven't we?
Yeah, I think we know what Robinson can do. We know what he's like when he's on song. We know what he's like when he's not on song.
Yeah.
I'd probably just tell him to go back to the county, get his form back. We know he's valuable.
Still at Sussex, right?
Still at Sussex.
Yeah.
And I'd give the likes of Atkinson, Potts, and Cooker. If we're saying that you can have one of Anderson and Wokes as the new ball bowler, you want Wood in the attack as your pace bowler, and then you're going to rotate between Cook, Atkinson, and Potts to come in for the final slot, and potentially when Wood's rested at times. I don't think we need loads of Robinson this year, and maybe he needs to go back out of the limelight, get his form back, and say, he can come back for the winter, where I think we've got tests against New Zealand.
Very good.
Comfortable with that?
Yeah, very good. Good overview. So,
thoughts on Somerset not playing Bashir?
Would you be expectant?
Yeah.
I think he as soon as he landed off the plane from India, he said that he prepared to go out on loan somewhere. I don't know whether
Would you be putting pressure on if you were? It's only the first game, but if you were Key, McCullum, Stokes, would you be leaning on Somerset a bit to either say,
I would
loan him out or play him?
I would. I mean, Leach plays for Somerset, doesn't he? He's going for injuries. So what's their backup?
Yeah, I think it is. Yeah, well, I suppose that's what they'll say is, they're playing to conditions. It's been damp. We're playing the seamers, but we need him because we've not got Leach fit at the moment. It would be a terrible shame, but it also wouldn't be out of the ordinary in English cricket for a young spinner to go away, have a good winter, and then be kind of forgotten about and mistreated by the counties. So.
We'll come on to counties in the news and headlines section I've got prepared for us. But have you been watching the IPL?
I've seen about half a game. I think you've been more diligent than me. So
well,
far.
No, when I was in Jaipur, which I think was my favourite area of India, I played a bit of cricket. Well, I said I played a bit of cricket. We went to a local cricket setup, and they let me have a ball in my flip flops. I did okay. Yeah. It's not really recommendable footwear to wear sliders when bowling. A proper hard, dusty pitch as well. Yeah. But anyway, they were good chaps, and I bought myself a Rajasthan Royals top. Nice quality, decent loungewear kind of kit.
And they're your side.
Yeah, and I've watched them. The stadium's not my favourite. It's it's not like a super ground. It's like no roof on it kind of thing, an oval kind of shape.
Yeah, it's not like,
packed to the rafters, of course. Very passionate cricket people. Yeah. They've won the first 4 games. They've had a recent setback, but they sit tidy at the top of the league.
Yeah.
I'm reading this just because if anyone knows the IPL table off the back of the hand, they probably want to get the hard drive checked.
Yeah.
Kolkata look now super giants. RCB, look like they've had a really poor start. They've lost 4 games already, and Delhi as well.
Yeah.
So RCB's Virat's team, obviously, of course, isn't it?
RCB and Delhi always seem to flatter to deceive in some ways.
Yeah.
Kohli, never quite get. I don't think RCB have ever won it, and Delhi haven't done particularly well for a long time. So
it's going to come on to my next sort of point, and I've made a bit more of a concentrated effort to try and get into the IPL because I'm what you call a very franchise skeptic. Yeah, that it doesn't draw me in from a sporting spectacle. I think we raised a good point when we were talking. If you paid me, and other podcasts have got this kind of luxury, haven't they, where to sit down and watch and analyse and to get involved and wear the shirt and drink it all in, I could probably provide you a much more of a thorough overview. But given the time constraints you have with a full-time job and operating in hours where it's not always going to be on when you finish work, etc., like that, it's a very unengageable product for the average cricket fan, I think. And not because it's not good, but the sort of people I see who are big into it are your serial cricket nerds,
Yeah.
people that are, God bless them. It's their absolute pride and joy. They'll love this sport more than I ever will, and it's big into the analytical sides and the averages and people's strike rates and stuff like that. I've just never. I know you're into some of that gear, but I've never had that sort of overview of the game, and I don't know. It'll just be that carousel that always is there for me, and I appreciate it's good, and the cricket bite. There seems to be some pretty memorable moments.
Yeah.
The stands are packed. It keeps cricket.
70 odd games is a lot of games in it.
Yeah. So how many times these guys are going to play each other a fair bit, aren't they?
I don't know. They must all play each other twice.
Yeah.
Don't know. Maybe they play each other more. I don't know.
Are you digging this IPL?
This is the least I've watched IPL for a while.
Reason being? It's interesting. I saw somebody else mention that view, and they just sort of said the emergence of these kind of satellite leagues where it's the same owners and the similar brands. It kind of makes you feel like you've already seen it.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Because now the South African kit, they're identical to the Indian kits for the connecting franchises.
Yeah.
And it kind of makes you feel like, well, it's already the same team, or you get that kind of dilution, don't you, between it all?
Again, in some ways, I think it's probably a symptom of England not doing very well at white ball cricket at the moment that I've been turned off to it, because usually I'd be thinking it's a T20 World Cup coming up. What English players are playing in the IPL? How well are they doing?
Yeah.
How well's Will Jacks doing? Phil Soul, Josh Butler, the rest of them. And maybe England's performances in the last couple of white ball tournaments have just nudged me away from kind of concentrating on that. I suppose as well, a big red ball series in India. It's the cricket we prefer. On the back of that, are you that bothered about watching the IPL?
It's not just that. It seems to be that the internationals do often tend to veer more towards the veteran side of things. Your Jason Roys, your Josh Butlers. Yeah. I know that we've had Harry Brook get a super contract last year, but you don't tend to see lots of raw sort of English talent budge the domestic Indian tile away. Right, they never will, obviously. Right. And I think my motives as a cricket fan lean more towards that. The same way you were sort of cherry picking people from county cricket you thought could be the next cab on the ranks. I feel that's more of an attractive proposition outside of watching my international team. Would you think that's a fair assessment?
Yeah, no, I'd agree. And I suppose one thing that caught my eye was the fact that, and I have no idea what's going on in his personal life, and everybody has to make their own decisions. However, I did think it was a shame for cricket, a shame for the individuals involved that Kohli missed the whole of the India-England Test series and was straight back for the IPL.
Yeah, we spoke about this. I don't look at it as sinister as you might be sort of pushing that direction.
No, I'm not pushing it in a sinister perspective. In many ways, I'm just saying it's a shame that he wasn't around for it. I think it's just
it sort of dimmed down the lights of the series.
I think it's a sign of the times, isn't it? Is that he obviously felt that his schedule was too busy. He needed to take some time for his family. Mm-hmm. Everybody's got the right to do that, and he's prioritised the IPL over Test cricket now. He's got every right to do that, and that's fine. I just think it's a shame that Kohli didn't play in that Test series, because it would have been a better Test series for it.
Yeah, interesting. Shall we have a little look around the news, because there's some interesting topics surfacing? Yeah. This is a part of the show that I enjoy doing, and I think we'll continue to feature this because it's just a good sort of dive out of the 4 6s, wickets and stumpings and all the things that goes on the actual cricket. So, what do you know, Bot, about the name Tim Bostock?
I did have a look. Is he the chairman of Durham?
Right, you are. Yes, he's the chief executive officer of Durham County Cricket. Now, this is an individual that interests me quite a bit, actually, because I do feel when you get the county sort of view on things, you get a very familiar kind of feel towards, underfunded, a lot of the elements of why there's issues there, but obviously there's a similar, they mix in very similar circles, and with that, it's sort of the supporters. This chap, Tim Bostock, has kind of has raised eyebrows in coming weeks. He's dubbed franchise fans, members, if you like, Luddite people.
Right.
That term goes back to Old England when I think textiles workers rebelled against the introduction of machinery. So they basically they resisted change. And I think he talks a lot about this and says, you know, well, first and foremost, is there any facts in that? But he's also, and you shared this with me, he raised the idea of England making a red ball franchise tournament, which you've asked guests on this show. I think you asked Tim Wigmore the same thing about would the Indians be interested in sort of surfacing a product like this. But he was sort of talking to Nasser Hussain and Michael Averton to say that, you know, with the right minds and the right brains together, he thinks it could be a very good product in this country.
USP.
Yeah. What are your thoughts to that?
I think it's a really good idea. I think it's brilliant for Test cricket to start thinking about red ball cricket in that way, breaking away from kind of some of the traditional mould. Imagine a bit of a franchise league for red ball cricket in England with 4 overseas players, 8 teams at the Test venues. Imagine if you could go down to watch Manchester versus Yorkshire. Obviously, you've got lots of the usual Lancashire players playing, Phil Soule, Keaton Jennings, Josh Bohannon. But you've got 4 overseas players, and, you know, Nathan Lyon's one of them, Mitchell Stark. Who else could be there? I don't know. Josh Hazelwood and Marcus Stoyner.
So would this be like a 50 over kind of thing, or are you thinking test match, Kyle?
Red ball, maybe kind of like think about some innovations in the red ball game. Can you get it into 4? Well, I suppose like county stuff is 4 days, but can you get it a bit faster? How do you get revenue into it? What do you do with tickets? I think that although we've spoken to the experts and they, you know,
debunked it a little bit,
their opinion, you know, they are the experts of debunking it. I've always felt like it will be something that people still love red ball cricket. The quality of it isn't always there at the international level. I think that will eventually get filled by a private market at some point. I can imagine the IPL thinking about it at some point once they've...
I think you've got to push to where the door's swinging, haven't you? Because I think you could try and you know, rightly so, the 100 is being thrusted upon us, isn't it? And, you know, people are either drinking that Kool-Aid or they're not. Yeah. I think you'd be very safe to make this bet that if you ask the majority of people in this country what the preference was, I think red ball would still be quite pretty much at the top, as would Australia. India would be white ball, and that's why that market flourishes there. And I think there is a genuine sort of argument to put forward that if red ball franchise stands the best chance anywhere, it's on these shows.
And the thing is as well, it doesn't have to be a million games.
No,
so, I mean, you could almost have it where you have if you had 8
it could be a 3-week spell almost.
8 teams.
Yeah.
2 groups of 4. You play 3 games each. The top goes through, and the 2 play in a final. So you play a maximum 4 games if you get to the final.
Yeah.
Have it in the school holidays. I suppose that would eat into 100 time, but you know, you could really start to kind of
back the big players well, mate. The players captains. Yeah. So you say to Pat Cummins, "You're being a captain of this team."
Yeah.
I mean, you know, it's blue sky thinking at the minute. No, but all he's saying, he's opening the conversation. And I think just to finish this off, you know, this guy has played the game. He's played for Cheshire, so he's played cricket at a decent standard. Yeah. He took a little bit of you know, he's raised his hands to sort of those county members and says they've got too much control. You know what? Without offending anybody, I do think, and I'm in this category, there is a large segment of people in this country where county cricket or the importance of county cricket bypasses them, where they might support their local village team and then England. Yeah. I don't think there's now a smaller majority of people that have vested interest in the results of their actual counties, and more people, I suppose, like me and you, that are looking at them as centres of excellencies.
Yeah.
Do you see what I mean? So I think we've got to be a bit careful when every time the county sort of the county side, you know, raises the sort of the red flag to say, like, what about us? You know, you will be nothing without us. I think we've got to be a little bit careful how much that weight's used, because there are now more opportunities for people to find routes into cricket.
I think we should ultimately just want people watching red ball cricket.
Yep.
The sport that we love. I don't think we should be overly bothered about what structure and form it takes. Although I do understand, you know, it would be a great shame if Worcester County Cricket Club or Gloucester or one of the smaller counties, Kent, went out of business. You don't want to see that. You know, you want to keep the legacy.
But no, I think you've got to kind of you've got to still maintain them, but give them a purpose. Do you know what I mean? I think it can't be fun for them just to to look up at a table and look at the most richest counties prospering, like Surrey and stuff. There's no rocket science behind this, is there?
No.
And them just existing themselves isn't that pleasant at times, I guess. We talked about the flooded ground before on one of the smaller counties. Resources are always going to be stretched in that mine. So repositioning might be a good thing. NFL style, where the best team, the worst team gets the best player. Is that the draft system? Yeah. I'm not opposed to something like that.
Yeah, or you just say that. I mean, they've done a similar thing with the 100, but you say that this Red Ball tournament would be extra revenue to fund and help the counties.
That kind of traditional argument to say, like, when I was at Lancashire, I used to go and watch Clive Lloyd. For me, that doesn't sail anymore, because, like, if you wanted to watch Clive Lloyd now, you could watch him in the IPL.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Accessibility to cricket is beyond those sort of years.
Yeah, and in Clive Lloyd, if he was playing now, wouldn't be playing for Lancashire in the county championship.
He'd be playing for RCB or something. Yeah.
So it's a bit of a moot point.
Finish off your mate Rishi Sunak. Know him well. He's made a significant 35 million. Well, his government has 35 million investment into grassroots cricket. This includes more accessibility for all areas. But what raised my eyebrow with this is 16 all-weather cricket domes in cities by 2030. Already one in Bradford, and they are going to be placing them in, I think it was Walsall and Luton. They're up and coming.
I think it's a good idea. I think one of the great.
You saw, I don't know if you follow social media, but Rishi looks like he's held a cricket bat before.
So he got bowled,
Yeah, gets his front foot forward and has a bit of a cover drive to him, and clearly likes the game.
So he was having a chat with Anderson.
So the chairman of the ECB, Richard Thompson, has said this is by far the biggest investment made into cricket from a central government in God knows when. His aspirations is to make cricket the most accessible team sport in the country. And you've got to watch this, because I went playing paddle tennis a couple of weeks ago, and they're popping up now like buds everywhere. And you can see, you can't help it, you can be complacent with these sort of things.
Yeah, and I think particularly the all-weather or the weatherproofing of investments is a really good way to go, because you think about back when you're a teenager, going to those games and it starts raining, and how that affects kind of your summer. There's only a few games that you get to play in the summer, and if a couple get rained out, it can be a great shame for your love of the game.
Mm-hmm.
It can really distract from that, and also from player development. So I don't think it's a bad idea at all. And
that's your vote secured. Lastly, Matt Chapman, the guy who does Match of the Day.
Yes.
Did you know he was chairman of the Manchester Originals?
Didn't know.
Well, he actually is. Right. He's come out with a statement saying that the ECB and the franchise of the 100 don't speak at all, which was kind of concerning.
Yeah, I think that is poor.
That's when we talk about complacency, that's kind of a little bit of a don't do that at your peril kind of thing.
You would say what the county championship, the players, the 100 franchises, and the ECB, and maybe the PCA, but you could say that's the players. They probably your 4 biggest stakeholders in English cricket.
Yep.
Most influential stakeholders, and 2 of them aren't talking to each other. I don't think that's good for anyone. I think one thing that English cricket really needs to get a hold of is this kind of segregation and drawing of the lines and lack of cohesion amongst the game, lack of collaboration, so that everyone kind of gets what they want, is worse for everybody in the game. And the more division we see across the game, the worse a package, the less intuitive a package it is for people to enjoy. So, yeah, I'd hope that Mark's encouraging Manchester Originals to talk to the ECB and vice versa.
Very good. So that was quite a lot to cover. It's good to be back.
Yeah.
Good to get back into the swing of things.
Good first pod.
When's that when we next get some more cricket we like?
I think it'll be a while now. Months and months of the IPL, won't it?
Got a good year, haven't we?
Yes.
Got the Caribbean coming up. The World Cup. Cricket in America. It's like a super drug album, not super drug. What they called the band? Super Tramp.
Yeah.
Like a Super Tramp album.
Yeah.
Cricket in America.
Yeah. We've got Sri Lanka, West Indies, 2 of your favourite.
Yeah. Good to have them back, isn't it? Doing our bit a bit.
Yeah.
Hopefully we'll see them put on good shows, but we've got a long way to go through then. So I think we'll try and wrestle through this rain, talk some cricket, try and get a few guests back on. We've been busy, haven't we?
Yeah, we'll try and get some guests. I think that's important to start listening to some other views other than our own.
Yeah.
Be good.
So if you click that bell on Spotify, you'll get notified. This is our latest podcast. Again, apologies for the delay. Lifestyle has taken hold and holidays, which are soon to come again. Soon be weddings.
I know.
Believe it or not. So thanks for joining us. Good to talk cricket. We'll see you very soon. We're the 2 12th men.